Before I even got started reading, I looked up Pachinko because I didn't know it was referring to a name in the story. And I wanted to like clarify that. What Pachinko is a Japanese form of pinball. So the name Pachinko is actually a Japanese word, and Pachinko comes from or is derived from the word paching, which is the sound the machine makes, paching. And ko means very small or little. So that is Pachinko, and Pachinko is a very popular gambling recreational game in Japan. And it actually is frowned upon because it's associated with criminal activity or crime. A lot of the Japanese people frown upon anyone who is a pachinko owner. They think that it's trashy or there's scandal associated with it. By the way, the author of Pachinko, I do not want to not mention her name. Her name is Min-Jin Lee. Pachinko is also a metaphor. It's like life is like a gamble. You win some and you lose some. And this book is really about the struggles of life, particularly in the poor community of Korea and living as a poor person in Japan. So it is a metaphor. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and life is a gamble. So I thought that was a very clever name to title the book, and it suits it very well. So this is a historical fiction novel, and it follows 4 generations of a Korean family living through war, and as they go through life again as a poor family and what their struggles are and what they go through. This is essentially a book about their lives, a book about the lives that they've lived and the battles that they've had to fight and overcome or try to overcome. I never learned Korean history in school. Learning about the Korean War, learning about Koreans and how they were discriminated against so heavily. The book has so many experiences with these characters going through strife, struggle against discrimination, racism, classism, sexism. It was very eye-opening to me. I had never learned about it. I really had empathy for the Koreans having to struggle and lose everything that they had in Korea because of the war. They had to leave and to live in a different country, and in that country, which is Japan, they were so heavily rejected and discriminated against. Most of the men, they couldn't even get jobs legally there because if you were Korean, basically they didn't want you to be there. You needed to flee the country from the war, and then you go into another country so you can have safety and survive. And you find that you're struggling there. Obviously, you have your life, thank God, but you are so heavily alienated by the people, the Japanese people that live there. Min-Jin Lee, the author, she lived in Japan. Before she wrote this book, she actually interviewed many Korean people that reside in Japan, and she interviewed Japanese people. She got a lot of insight. And so her writing of these stories being told are very true. I was unsure whether or not I was going to like this book because, again, I love fantasy. I love for a book, the experience to kind of like take me away, a more heightened, nice feeling, an adventure, right? And this story is definitely an adventure. It has a lot of lows, and the struggle is real for this family. This book is actually sectioned off as book 1, book 2, and book 3. She could have actually written 3 books, but she put everything in this one book. There was a certain point in this book where I'm like, wow, this is pretty lengthy. Like, she could have shortened it. I could have done without certain aspects of the story. It definitely kept my interest. And if I didn't mention it before, welcome to my channel, Lenette Looks, or welcome back if you've been with me before on another book review. I really appreciate it. So let's continue with this book review. The story starts in the year 1910 and it ends in 1989. So you have this lengthy span of time here following this family. In book 1, you meet a character by the name of Sunja, and I really felt for Sunja. You find her as a little girl, and she's being raised by her mom, who is now a widow, and so it's just the two of them. Sunja, one day, and this may be a little bit of a spoiler, so hang in there with me. I'm gonna try to like not give too much detail. So you meet Sunja, and Sunja, her mom sends her out, and she is getting some things at the market and in town, in the village, and she's walking around, and then you find these 4 boys. They start like harassing her and wanting to like touch her and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden this man comes and he basically saves her life because these kids were gonna like do something bad to her. Like, that one event totally changed the trajectory of this girl's life, because if that wouldn't have happened, I mean, I don't know where her life would have gone. That particular incident, she met Hansu, and Hansu, this man who saved her from these treacherous kids, you know, wanting to harass her and do crazy stuff, this man Hansu actually fills in what the boys were gonna do to her. I shouldn't say he fills in, but Hansu slowly but surely eases his way into getting to know Sunja. And he's a much older man, and she's like, I think she's 16, but this man introduces himself, and he basically saves her, so she feels like comfortable with him, like, wow, this man saved my life, like he's a good person. He kind of like eases his way where he tells her, let's meet here sometimes, you know, and I can just, after I say that, you can like fill in the blanks of let's meet here once in a while or whatever. Also, you know, she was naive as a young girl, and she did not tell her mom about the incident. She didn't tell her mom about Hansu, about meeting him or anything like that. So she begins this sort of sneaky secret type of thing with him. And it's really interesting because it was like he saved her and then he kind of tricked her. And you're gonna read actually how he tricks her and what happens between them. But that like decision, that like, I know she was a young girl, but it's so interesting, and I felt for her. I really felt for this character. I had so much empathy for her because she was just this poor girl going out of town, and this happened to her, and then it just totally changed the path of her life. I'm gonna leave it to you, the reader, if you feel like, I mean, sometimes in life you make decisions and you think it's the rightest decision at the time, and then if you were to look back, you're like, why did I do that? And I feel like that's one of those instances where she got lured and she got played, put it that way. Obviously, she didn't know she was getting played with or whatever. I don't want to get into too much of the story. There's so much that happens, and it's so much of rebuilding, trying to rebuild a life in a new country where you're looked upon as trash. I had no idea, and I was schooled. Like, this book totally gave me an education on the way the Koreans were treated, having to go from trying to save their lives, moving to Japan, and then having the experiences of, we don't want you here, you know, and we don't want you to live here well. In any case, that's what was highlighted throughout reading this book. And I must say that Sunja meeting Hansu, the man that I say tricked her, you know how you meet a bad boy and he does good things for you, but then he's still like a bad boy, a bad guy. He does nice stuff, but you know, like underneath, he's not a really good person. That's kind of like Hansu, how he is, and he has a lot of power. I thought that he was an interesting character. I really did. And she's a very interesting character. So, and then the world around them, the way the world was described, the way the events were described, and certain things that happened man, you just need to read the book. You really, really do need to read the book. It was eye-opening. I mean, I keep saying that, but that's the case. It was eye-opening. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I thought it was a really, really good novel. Going back to the whole pachinko business and stuff, a lot of the Korean men, they would look towards owning a pachinko business because that's something that they could do and have as their own business, because Japanese business owners would not want them working for the company if they knew that they were not Japanese. And so you had the trouble as a man trying to get a job in that country unless you were wealthy or well off. There was another character in the story, and I believe his name is Noah. But anyway, it's Sunja's son. And I was just, man, I didn't know it was going to take the turn. He was going to take the turn that he took. And I wish that she didn't write his character like that. I don't know. I was really, really hoping that she was going to have, because her life, like, it really took such a turn. And I'm always rooting for like I want her to feel like she won something. But as she said in the story, Sunja, her life was her children, or is her children. And I could totally understand that. Having the love of her children is like, she won. I wanted the struggle to end for her. I don't know. I wanted her to have a life that she didn't have. And you will learn more about her. Again, I highly recommend this book. If you liked anything that I've said so far, I think you would really like reading this book. And it definitely, again, kept my interest. And I am so happy that I read it. Again, it was an educational piece for me, and learning about their lives and and friendships that they made and their lives and the thinking of the society and the clashes. If you've gotten this far and you read Pachinko, I would love to hear your comments, if you like the story, if you like the novel or not, and if you did like it, any particular part that you felt interested you the most, or what you got from it the most. And if you didn't like it, please share. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. It really helps support my channel. It supports me in making more videos. So subscribe and hit that like button. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.